If you're an Etsy seller and would like to take your business more seriously, so basically moving it from a hobby to a proper business, then you need to start looking at your business finances. And that means getting an understanding of the information that Etsy gives you, from your income, your fees, your revenue, same as income, fees, expenses, inside and outside of Etsy. Now, Etsy gives you the option of integrating with QuickBooks. That seems to be only for US sellers. I've not tried it myself, so I don't know how successful it is. And because I'm at the UK and don't have that facility, then I have built a spreadsheet to help me make sense of those numbers. Obviously, apart from QuickBooks being the only integration that Etsy seems to allow, automatic integration, I, as a small business and only just starting out, I didn't want to be lumbered with a monthly subscription for something that may or may not work, that may or may not justify the cost, and being a bit tight, I wanted to do it as cheap as possible. So for me, that was meant creating a spreadsheet to do it myself. Fortunately, I understand the numbers a bit and I understand spreadsheets a bit. So I've created a series of spreadsheets that help Etsy sellers make sense of their numbers. They are bookkeeping spreadsheets, so takes in your income and revenue, so both from Etsy and from other income streams. And there are different versions, some for US sellers because there's specifics that you need to do from a tax perspective if you're interested, to show what your sales are from different states, which you don't necessarily need if you're outside of the US. And equally, you may have an accountant who will do that for you anyway, so you maybe don't even want to have a detailed tax statement. But if you want to keep that information, if you want something that will give you that information, then I've got a spreadsheet for you. So I've got a US sellers spreadsheet that covers the tax perspective for states. I've got a non-US, so UK, Australia, etc., spreadsheet that also does tax, or gives you a tax summary, but it doesn't need to be specific to the states. And I have a spreadsheet that will cover everybody, and it excludes specific summaries for tax, although that information is in there. So you can give that spreadsheet to an accountant and they will pick out the numbers and do what he needs to do. And this all uses the downloadable data that Etsy provides. So there are two spreadsheets, CSVs, two files that you'll need from Etsy. One is your monthly statement from your finances section, and one is your orders statement from it's hidden away. Let me just see where it is. It is under settings. Bizarrely, it's in settings and options. Quite why it's in those areas, I have no idea, but it's hidden away there. So you need those two files, download them, copy and paste the data, and pasting them into the spreadsheet, and that will then automatically use the calculations to work out what your profit and loss is, and so on. So from here, I'm going to give you a bit of a demo of the spreadsheet. Here we are in the US Etsy seller bookkeeping spreadsheet with tax reporting. Now I'm showing this one because it's got all of the tabs available to you, and the different versions just have a few tabs less. So this gives you visibility of everything. So this is the main instructions tab. It's just got a few steps on how to complete the spreadsheet. The first of which is to set up your
details for your business, so business name, what the currency is. As I said, it was US, but you can put whatever currency you use. I'm going to stick with the pounds for some reason. You can put in your date for the first tax year. So in the UK, if this was a UK thing, our tax years are the 5th of April through to the 4th of April each year. So I would put in the 5th of April there and go forward from there. But you can alternate that to be whatever date it is. It could be just that you're running it from the 1st of January through to the 31st of December. So whatever day you put in here, it will take you up to the same time next year minus 1 day. You can put in how much profit you would like, so a goal of how much profit. So we've got 1,000 in here. And you can put in an opening reserve for the year, so we can monitor cash flow. So basically keep us a bit of a track, if you only have one bank account, of how much money you should have in that account, providing all of your income and expenses go out of that account as well. So it just gives you a bit of an idea of the cash flow. We have expense types, so there are standard ones that you can put in. Depending on where you're based, there are different value options that Etsy use, so you pick the one that's appropriate, and the same with tax. Again, depending where you're based, you'll have a different tax amount, so just put in the value that's relevant for your country and we'll take it from there. There are also some expense types that you may want. So I have a high level expense type for products and a high level expense type for business, and then everything else. So these can be changed if they're not appropriate, and that will filter through. But generally they're pretty standard, and then you can put in any additional ones that you may have. Same with the revenue stream, you can put in whatever values you want in there, and also payment sources. So it's just for setting up. Once you've got the data in there, then you don't need to touch this tab again. The Etsy Payments tab is where you enter data from Etsy. So this is your monthly statement data that you've downloaded. So it's just a matter of downloading the file, highlighting everything in that month's file, and pasting it into the spreadsheet. Now, as of, I'm going to say January 2022, there were some changes in the run-up to that, and also in the July prior to that Etsy started tweaking the accounts. But as you can see from here, as of the 31st of January 2021, then the transaction details that you got were different to if you look at values. So I think, let me just, it's so difficult. This is the whole problem with Etsy's data, trying to work out what applies. Let's go from the top. I think that is all related for one sale. So lots of VAT for each of the fees that Etsy charges, transaction amount, the transaction fee, the listing fee, and the sale. And this sale value included the payment processing fee. As of January 2022, this all changed, and we've got different fees included within the file. So in order to accommodate that, I have a spreadsheet that caters for pre-2022, and then the other spreadsheets are all post-2022. And I could have continued the one that existed pre-2022, but the calculations were so complex. And I just thought, well, after a while, they're going to become redundant, so I just thought I'd simplify it now. It's coming towards the end of 2022 now. I'll simplify it so that going forward, we're using the new way of Etsy sales. So anyway, they're the Etsy Payments tab, so you put in your data there. we have a column here that, again, Etsy is predominantly based around US sellers, or focuses on US sellers. So it's, when I first started doing this, the date format that I got the payments out of Etsy from was in the US format, which meant that it didn't work for me. So it errored every time. So I needed to convert the date to a UK format. So I added in an extra column here to indicate whether it was erroring or not. And there is standard procedures to change that date if that is the case. So actually, as of, again, this second half of this year, I've noticed that the date is now pretty much correct for me. I'm not saying it's going to be correct for all countries or all people even, but the format appears to be correct in the Etsy payments section. The Etsy orders, on the other hand, which is the second downloaded piece of data, still has this sale date in an incorrect format. So for me, for the UK, so you need to translate it to the correct format. It's an easy step, and I will have a video that will show you how to do that. So don't worry, it's not too difficult. But again, with the Etsy orders, copy all of the data for that month, or indeed for the whole year, because the way that Etsy does refunds is they add it to the order. The only way of getting the refund identification is through the order, which may be on a previous, the order may be on a previous month than when the refund happens. So to be able to balance everything out, it is useful to get the full year each time. I have tried to set this up so that we didn't need this second file, but there's no way of getting the shipping details, so that the state, the country, and what was the other thing that we needed? Yeah, the shipping value, the shipping amount. I'm a digital seller, so it doesn't really matter so much for me for any of that information, but actually for a lot of Etsy sellers it will. So we need this second file to be able to get the shipping details so that we can do the tax information correctly and separate out everything that's needed for your profit and loss statement. You then have another tab for you to input data. So these are other revenue streams, if you have any, and other expenses, if you have any. So these can all be input in and used as appropriate. And obviously you can have any number of expenses and any number of revenue streams to input that data. All of that information is then taken and put into all of the other summary tabs. And the summary tabs are just showing you different data or different ways to look at the data. So the main dashboard gives you a running total of your reserves, so cash flow. So again, if you put in where you ended, what your reserves were at the end of last year into the setup, so into here, then let's put something in so we can see a difference. So we started with 1,000, now go to the dashboard. So we are seeing that that's starting up higher, and then it goes onwards like that. So it takes into account the profit that you currently have, so your profit being your income minus your expenses, and adds that to your reserves. So that should be the amount of cash that you have in the bank, so to speak, so if you've got one bank. I've got a summary here of your total revenue for the year, total expenses for the year, and your profit margin. And again, based on if you put a goal in there, then we have a summary of what your goal is, what you need to make each day, week, and month to hit your goal, and whether you're hitting them or not. And just for a bit of fun, I can show you what your best sales month was and what your best sales day was, so that you get an idea well, just so you know, there's a comparison really. The charts on top of showing you mapping the profit against the reserves, we show charts of your revenue per month, your expenses per month, your total revenue by revenue stream, and then that's shown on a per month basis. Your total expenses by category, and again the same information but on a monthly basis. So that's where you are per year, over the year, so where you're sitting now on the year, these two charts, and then these ones are on a month by month basis. Your profit and loss is showing you, again, this is the same chart that's on your dashboard. It's showing you your closing reserve. So it's basically giving you all of the information, breaking out all of the information from the Etsy payments, Etsy orders, and other revenue and expenses tabs, and breaking it all out into individual sections so we can see what you've earned in different revenue streams. We can see what you earned in Etsy. We can see how all of the Etsy fees are broken down, how much you paid in each one, total for the year, and then on a per month basis. And again, the same with other expenses. So that gives you a thorough understanding of all of the elements of your finance report so that you can see where you are and see if there's anything in there that you might be interested in changing. What I've also done is given you the number of orders that made up those sales. Again, it's only based on Etsy orders at this point. It doesn't take into account any orders from other revenue streams. And we also have, and by having that, we can work out the average order value. And we also have your profit margin. So on each month, what your profit margin is, and again, on a per year basis. So it helps determine what you need to do or how you can take your business forward. So these figures are there to help you do that. Similarly, we have a business year summary. So we take that information and just give you it all in the figures for the year. This particular sheet, so it's for the year, but it's based on the particular start and end day that you specified in the setup. So whereas if we look at the profit and loss account, this is on a month by month. So it's so this final value here is for the month as a whole, so from the 1st of April through to the 31st of March. This one here is from the 5th of April to the 4th of April, because that's the date that I've set up in my setup for the tax year. So if I wanted to submit figures for a specific date period, then this is where I would look to get it. But the profit and loss account, the profit and loss statement shows you it on a month by month basis. Equally, if I wanted to get into more detail or more graphical detail for a month, then I can use this. So we can use the year, change the month, and see different figures. Again, this is similar data to the profit and loss. It's showing you the same month detail, but it's breaking down those fees and the revenue streams into more a pictorial view so that you can get a view of where most of your expenses are going or where most of your income is coming from. So that is standard on all of the spreadsheets. The next thing we have is some tax statements. So this is where it starts being different on different versions. So if you bought a version of the spreadsheet without tax, so the Etsy seller which is called Etsy seller bookkeeping, then you won't have these two tabs. If you bought the version that is non-US, then you will have this tab, but you won't have the US sales state tab. So that's this is where the difference is. So if you've got tax, then you will see this summary. It will give you your sales overall, and then the sales retained where Etsy is charged. So if you are registered if you're non-VAT registered or tax registered with Etsy, then they will charge the customer tax. So the customer will pay, and it will be retained by Etsy, and they will pay the tax for you on your behalf. And so this gives you a detail of what tax has been paid already for you. If you are registered, then this section here will show you the tax that has been paid by the customer, but Etsy has paid you, and you need to then pay the relevant authorities for that tax. So that gives you a bit of information around there. This is a very similar spreadsheet. So again, it breaks it down into the tax paid by a customer but retained by Etsy, and then the tax paid by a customer that needs to be settled by you. But you can flip it through into different states so you can see where you are. So you really need to look up what's relevant for you and what the limits are. So this gives you a bit of an information on that so that you can draw your own conclusions as to what's required. And finally, we have a sales map that, again, it gives you that information anyway, but not in so much detail. So it gives you the sales but not the tax. So you can change it by sales. So this is where you've had sales. You can do it by quantity sold, and you can do it by number of orders. Each of those factors vary on a state-by-state basis as to what information they require from you as to whether you pay tax or not. So you get this map on all of the versions, but only the versions with tax do you get these other tax summary tabs. Hopefully that makes sense. And hopefully you would find this spreadsheet useful to start to get to grips with your data.
So there we have it. I've shown you the bookkeeping spreadsheet, Etsy seller bookkeeping spreadsheet. Hopefully you found it useful. And as you can see, it does pretty much everything QuickBooks or the like would do for you, but for a one-off fee. No more monthly subscription. You pay it for once and then you've got it for life. You can find these spreadsheets in my Etsy shop or on my website.